Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Fan Behavior. I am Zoe. I'm here remotely with Hannah.
Hello, everyone.
Is this our first? No, it's not our first time doing a remote,
No, but it's the first time that I've been like I'm not at my own
like
home.
actually remote.
Yeah, I'm actually
I
remote.
feel like the only time we've done remote is when we mess up the original recording of the
Yeah.
podcast.
Yeah. Which honestly, like I'm pretty impressed with our record.
I know. I mean, to be fair, we probably could have done more remote recording, but we just don't want to. If someone's actually gone, we're just like take the weekend off,
Yeah.
and we'll find a
Yeah.
guest
PTO.
co-host. Yes, exactly. But
Yeah.
I felt like this was something that we had to do together because it's
So much to
pretty
say.
so much to say, so much to discuss. And I mean, of course we could have had a wonderful guest co-host to come on to talk about it, but it was
I need
important
to,
for the two
yeah,
of
I have
us.
commentary.
Yeah. Yeah. We did get some people asking or saying like, why couldn't you guys have done a in real time right
Mm,
after the event recap? Hannah was traveling this week for work. So, this unfortunately is a very much secondary. Uh,
yeah.
we have to put our real jobs first sometimes.
Yeah. It pays the bills, so
Yeah,
unfortunately.
exactly. We have to. It was also your birthday this weekend.
It was. Thank
Happy
you. Thank you.
birthday.
Thank you. Thank you to everyone for all the sweet messages. My favorite I saw because I kind of forgot I had said this. That happens a lot. Like I say things and it's funny, but then I like don't remember they happened. But on the last episode, when I was talking about how Fernando has great hair, and you go, he does, and I was like, I think so. Maybe not. But I do stand. Yes, I think he has good
You
hair.
do still
I
see?
think so.
I don't. You're doing it again.
Yeah, but I mean, I think he does.
Oh, you're saying like
I'm
you
not
think
saying it
so,
as a
not like
question.
yeah,
Yeah.
okay, got it, got it, got it,
Yeah.
got it.
Because when I watched F175, I was like, yeah, he does have good hair. I mean, I don't know if
Okay.
it's like the best, but I think he
Right.
has a nice head of hair.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It was also funny to me how many people their takeaway or their like favorite part, their favorite memory of you was the Jason Statham Yuki moment, which
It's
is funny because
historic.
it didn't actually like we couldn't actually show that
I
part.
know. Imagine how much the internet would have exploded if if we didn't have to remote record that one.
That was depressing.
Yeah, that was so
That
sad.
was really depressing.
Yeah,
Okay, well, we have a lot to cover and a lot to get into. So I figure let's just jump right in.
let's
Well,
do it.
obviously, so this is going to be the F175 recap episode. But there's a couple other things I felt like we should discuss prior to that.
Hmm.
The first being this new piece of news that came out this week that there is a there's discussions happening about having Monaco have more pit stops and
Hmm.
increase in mandatory pit stops. I actually saw a tweet from Chris Medland, who we know like
Yes.
we trust. He's one of the few journalists. I shouldn't say few, but
Yeah.
there's a lot of
He,
fake news going around
yeah.
F1 news world.
Yeah,
So
we put him in the e-news of F1 camp.
yeah, so he tweeted. This was on. I guess this was the 18th, which was what day was that? Wednesday?
Last week, right? Yeah.
I don't even know. Anyway, it was last week. He tweeted, as part of today's F1 Commission meeting, trying to promote better racing in Monaco was discussed, and it was agreed to increase the number of mandatory pit stops in the race. The proposal will see further discussions in the coming weeks. Now, I don't know if this is for this year or in
Mm,
future years. I kind of have to think it's probably for like 2026
2026.
and
Yeah.
beyond. It just seems too soon to like have it happen this year.
Hmm.
We could be wrong. Of course, we could be wrong.
Of course.
Of course.
That's always
Um,
possible.
it's always
Rare,
possible.
but possible.
No, no, it's not rare.
No, it's
Let's
not.
be
It's
honest.
not even
It's
at
not
all
rare.
rare.
Um, so obviously there's already one, like every race, you have to have at least one mandatory pit stop. You have to use at least two different sets of tires. I feel, well, first of all, how do you feel about this?
Well, I kind of feel torn about it because in a way, I feel like we're often talking about how like obviously Monaco's iconic, but it can be a little boring because really qualifying is the day to watch. Obviously people tune into the race, but it's like really we're qualifying that the race is decided. We have talked like in our own just chatter on and off the podcast that like it would be interesting to see an extra mandatory pit stop just to see how the grid could get mixed up because it's so hard to pass and overtake at that track. But I don't know. I mean, I think it can be good, but I also am just like this isn't the thing that I want them to be focused on, I
Hmm.
guess. You know what I mean? Like and not that it's the same group making this call or having this conversation that are doing other things, but I don't know. Sometimes I'm just like, why is this the thing that we're talking about right now instead of other items?
Well, I also think, yeah, to your point, there's been so much discussion about Monaco being not the best race. And I think last year was especially um not especially bad, but it highlighted the issues because if you remember, there was that immediate red flag at the beginning of the race
Hmm.
last year. And so all the drivers changed their tires and like that's within the rules. And so
Right.
there were barely any pit stops throughout the race. I think only if there was like a problem or a issue did someone actually pit.
Yeah.
And so you went through the whole race, no pit stops. I think there were
Yeah.
only four passes that happened in the entire race last year, or
Hmm.
four overtakes. But then you kind of get into like gimmicky territory a little
Right.
bit,
Yeah.
which is sort of like it's a because then you could do this for so many other races. Well, why don't you just do this? Why don't you just do that? You know?
Yeah.
So
Yeah. And it is kind of like, okay, because like when you're doing it just for this one race, which again, I recognize that like this is this track is so much different that, obviously the sport has evolved so much and the track has stayed the same. So how do you maybe make certain races more competitive? But it is kind of like, okay, but are we gonna just do this every time we're like bored with a race? Like Monaco is already such an experience. It's so extravagant. It's already kind of a show. And while yes, as a like spectator, I do think it would make it more interesting and exciting. I also wonder like, is there a way like how do you make it equitable across all the races and like I don't know all the same rule I don't know it
it's
feels like it's
complicated.
for television and I think that's where it's starting to get hard is like yes we both came into the sport because of the theatrical element of it, right? Like that's how we all got here. But I think when you start making decisions for the entertainment value, which is a
It
lot of
is
this sport,
entertainment. Yeah,
I know, but
yeah.
it's hard. I think for like like the people who are like the Max Verstappen-esque fans who are just there for the race. They don't care about the other stuff. Like they're just there for the sport and whatever. I don't know how you do just that, but that's fine. I think there are some of those out there. It does get to be gimmicky and it's kind of like are we losing touch with the history of it all?
Right. And I think a lot of people say, that's what makes Monaco qualifying so great is that
Yeah.
is what is important. And then the race is sort of
Hmm.
secondary in a sense. Obviously, there are things that can happen. I also wonder in IndyCar, they have the thermal club race. It's kind of like the
Hmm.
one-off race. It's not a part of the actual, I mean, it is a part of their calendar, but it doesn't, it's like it's a standalone race within the season.
Yeah.
I almost wonder if Monaco should become that. Like
Yeah.
remove it from, and this is again, people will have problems with that. It's just
Sure.
an idea.
Yeah.
um,
And we have no
but
say in the matter.
right, exactly. But because I think you should keep it on the calendar. It's so iconic. It's the history of
Yeah.
Formula One. You need it.
Yeah.
But I recognize that it's maybe not the best racing. So maybe you remove it from the 24 race calendar and you then allow yourself to have like two mandatory pit stops.
Sure.
Every driver has to use all three sets of tires. Whatever it is,
Hmm.
you can kind of like gimmicky it up a little bit because
Yeah.
it's not a part of the actual calendar.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I could see that working.
We'll wait and see.
Yeah.
Okay, next piece of news. Carlos Sainz is the new director of the GPDA, which
Obsessed.
is just perfect in so
Yeah.
many ways.
And
He
I think
was
it's so funny because he seems so like he does, and he's been interviewed about this a million times. He does seem so aloof, but I know he does. Like I know he really isn't. I think sometimes I wonder if he's just like punking all of us, but I do think he's dialed in. He's a Virgo.
100%. We were saying off mic that this is kind of like if Hannah and I were in charge of the
Yeah. Well, and I messaged you
GPDA.
when I saw this. I was like, this is student council, and you
Yeah.
really like. I don't know if the student council is like a global thing, but in America, it's student government, and that is what the driver's
Because
association.
you have said before that you really identify with George Russell and that you
Yes,
really see a lot of yourself in George Russell. I have said
for better
before,
for worse.
right, for better or for worse, I have seen a lot of myself in Carlos Sainz. It's that Virgo energy.
Yeah.
We obviously are not ever we wouldn't dare to truly compare ourselves to the
No.
George Russell or the Carlos Sainz
No,
for so
no.
many reasons. but it feels like the right choice of all of the drivers on the grid, of all the people, and to replace Sebastian Vettel.
Yeah.
That is big shoes to fill,
Hmm.
and I think he's the right man for the job.
Yeah. Now, forgive me for my lack of knowledge here, but has Sebastian Vettel not been the director for a long time, or has he just recently stepped down?
It says that he just recently stepped down.
Got it. Okay. I didn't realize he
Yeah.
was still involved. And I also wanted to know, not that we have this data, but like, was there an election? Did he make posters? Were there pins? Like, I want campaign footage.
That is a good question. I don't know if it's like a nomination process. Do you put
Yeah,
your
I
name
imagine
forward?
Sebastian just said, I think it should be Carlos. And everyone said, sure.
Yeah. Imagine if it was like Yuki and Charles Leclerc.
No, I can't.
Nothing would get done.
I think Yuki
Every-
also knows enough about himself to be like, guys, don't put my name in that.
It's not going to be me.
Yeah.
So congratulations to Carlos Sainz. This is a big honor.
Yeah, it is.
And you have big shoes to
Huge.
fill and you have a lot of pressure on your shoulders. So best of
Yeah.
luck this
Yeah.
season.
Godspeed.
Yeah, the final piece of news is that we talked about this before. I can't remember what episode about how we felt like Jack Doohan was going to have to start answering questions about his seat before the season even began. And
Mhm.
sure enough, this past week, he has had to answer questions about his seat. We also got news that Alpine has signed an Argentinian sponsor to their team, which could mean nothing.
Well, yeah, and I mean, he's
Or
still the
could mean
reserve driver.
everything.
He's
Yes,
still around the
exactly.
team.
Exactly. Exactly. But
Yeah.
it's tough. It's already starting.
Yeah, I don't
and
think it's a
that's-
benign scenario.
No, it's gonna be, this is one to watch. This is something to watch. This is kind of like, I feel as if it's not the first heightened storyline of the season, but it's sort of the thing that no one else's seat is like at risk
Question. Yeah.
from race one except for Jack Doohan's.
Yeah. Well, before races, like before the calendar
Correct.
even kicks off. And I think, as I've been thinking about it, it's a weird comparison, but it sort of takes me back to the La La Land moonlight of it all, of like because just hear me out. I know it's a weird comparison. I prefaced it with that, but it's like he's celebrating his start to like his first season in Formula One, and he's getting to do all these things, and everyone's excited for him, and he's like all this pomp and circumstance, the F175 launch, all these things where he's like, I finally made it. While in the background, it's like, well, but it may be in 6 races, like I leave and I don't ever get to come back.
Right. I see. I understand.
It's a stretch, but
I know
it's
what
not
you
the
mean.
same.
It's like, at
because
some
it's not a
point,
victory, but it is hard.
Jimmy Kimmel is going to come on the stage and say, I'm so sorry.
We've made a mistake.
we've got this.
Yeah. PricewaterhouseCooper has messed up in a big, big way.
Oh my gosh, that's funny. Okay, should we just get into the launch?
I believe we should.
Okay. So much to get into. I do think we need to say at the top, because there's been a lot of discussion about this
Yes, there has.
situation, this launch. Mixed reviews, positive, negative. I do think it's important to just say that, everyone is entitled to their own opinions about
Sure.
how this event went on, whether you thought it was great, whether you thought it was bad, whether you thought it was somewhere in between. Like, I do think that's important to remember, that we all come at this from different angles, different sides, perspectives. So just remember that.
Mhm.
And I also think something I feel like that's been lost in all of this discussion in a lot of the commentary surrounding it, is that this is like the celebration of 75 years in Formula One.
Right. Yeah.
And we just had the SNL 50 celebration.
Yeah.
And it's like,
everyone
to
thought
me-
that was totally fine.
Right. And it's like, yeah, sometimes when you celebrate these milestones, like, things are
You
going
do
to get
something different.
You do something different. You do something
Yeah.
big. It's not always going to be everyone's favorite thing, but I don't know. I feel like some people think it's just like a random reason for doing this event, or like, oh, now we're really going to lean into all the show stuff.
Yeah.
Where I'm like, well, this is, I don't know
75
that
is a
this
big deal.
Yeah, and I don't know that they're going to do this every single year. I just think it's a celebration of the 75 years.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Anyway, okay. Let's just first start with something very innocuous, which is the outfits.
Yes.
If you have any opinion. So I obviously, like, Lewis and Charles Leclerc looked
Stunning.
fantastic.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you saw Nate Saunders was interviewing Charles Leclerc
Hmm.
and he asked him if he wins the championship if he could get his pin.
Yes.
And I want one of those pins too.
Yeah. Well, and my favorite was like, well, Charlotte was like, well, I mean, you can go buy it from any Ferrari store, but yeah, if I win, you can have this one.
It's probably like $1,000.
Probably.
It's probably so expensive, but I would like
It's
them. I've
pretty.
also seen the earrings too. I don't know if you've seen the
Oh
Ferrari
no.
earrings. Yeah, very cool. So maybe in a different like I don't know if we win the lottery or something, we get like a
Okay.
influx of cash from someone. I'm gonna
Yeah.
buy
Anyone
myself.
who wants to send us an influx of cash, feel free.
Or if Charles Leclerc himself would like to mail us some.
Yeah.
Um, I just think it's fun.
Preferably that, actually. It's better for the story.
Exactly, exactly. I honestly was very impressed with how Max looked.
Me too.
Like it
Was
wasn't.
he wearing AlphaTauri?
That's a great question. I didn't dig deeper. I just saw the
I didn't
suit.
either.
It's a very good chance he was an AlphaTauri, but
Yeah. But he
he
dresses
seemed.
up nice.
Yes, he does. Now, I was confused with Liam's outfit, I have to say. He
Yes.
was in like he was in jeans and some sort of like plaid flannel situation.
Was it Pepe jeans? Because
I
I
don't
and
know.
I don't know because I
It's
haven't dug deeper either. But I do wonder if there was like a brand sponsorship component there. But it felt like he was misinformed.
right. It wasn't. I just was confused with what they were told the dress code was because
Mhm.
it's not even the like yeah, it just seemed like he was dressing for a different event than everybody else, I guess is what I'm
Yeah.
trying to say, which was just sort of interesting.
Yeah.
And then
There's nothing wrong with the
Alpine,
outfit. It just felt out of place.
exactly. And then Alpine was very matchy matchy. They were in black, almost looked like jean jacket type,
Hmm.
with their shaved head. I mean, they're very much
Yeah, they're
on
really leaning into the fact that they're twinning at the moment, which
exactly.
they're Mary Kate and Ashley. You gotta respect it.
Exactly, exactly. Okay, then we had so Jack Whitehall hosted the.
I love him.
Okay,
I
so
imagine
see,
he's
there's
incredibly controversial, but
I
I
was gonna
really
say there's
enjoy
a
him.
lot of mixed opinions about him and his performance. There were a
Hmm.
lot of people who were like he was hilarious, a lot of people who were like this was terrible. As I mean, this is sort of
Sure.
how things go
Yeah.
in this world. I thought he was fine. Were
Yeah.
there were there and we can have differing opinions, obviously that's
Sure.
totally great. Were there some things that I found funny in his opening monologue or jokes he made? Yes. I thought it was funny him addressing the Max and George beef,
Sure.
saying, what did he say? Like the guy who we know really wants to be here. Or he made some comment about how much like Max doesn't want to be at these things.
Totally.
Funny. Were there
Yeah.
some things that I'm like, okay, like the whole Charlotte
Yeah.
Claire, my girlfriend thinks of you when
Hmm.
like I'm just kind of like, okay, these things are just sort of tired. And also like again, men get to make these kinds of jokes and it's like ha ha ha, but then
Hmm.
God forbid one of like a woman says these
Yeah.
things and then they get annihilated. So
Yeah. And
I
the
don't
and the
know.
Jerry thing I didn't love because like that's we're talking about personal life, but I also come from it. My whole thing with him is I think he's funny. I think he's good at what he does. And I also think that like I've seen him clips of him like doing the Brits and stuff.
Yes.
And what, like in every award show, there are jokes that are funny, but you're also in an audience full of people who are terrified that they're going to be called on. And so they're also just tense and they can't really lean into it. And then you go a little too deep into someone's actual personal life rather than talking about, how Max and George are fighting, like always, whatever. And I also think like this particular crowd was really mixed and it felt weird that there was like an award show level monologue bits kind of thing going. I think they were all just like, what is happening? Like, what are we doing here?
Yeah. I appreciated the effort and like I got what they were going for. And again,
Yeah,
first year ever doing this kind of thing, I understand there's going to be hiccups. There's going to be things that
sure.
don't work, that do work. Like not it's just not all going to be perfect. So for me he was kind of a mixed bag.
Yeah.
I know people have their differing opinions on him, but I wasn't like that was awful, but I also wasn't like that was
Oh
amazing.
yeah. I don't think there was anything about that was like, oh, spectacular. He needs to host everything forever. But I mean, I just think it's like any award show we've ever watched. I mean, there are some who ever won. It's just unanimously like like I think it was Joe Coy. I didn't even watch it, but like, oh,
Exactly.
that was horrible. He should never
Exactly.
be allowed to do that again. And then there's just mixed reviews because, the jokes that they're encouraged to make are offensive to the people they're making them to.
They should have had Gunter host.
I don't think that would have been a safe choice.
But it would have been funny.
It would have
It
been
would have
funny.
been funny.
Yeah.
It would have been good. Okay, then so I don't know if we want to talk about this now. I kind of just have some
Yeah.
questions about the performers that they had. So
Hmm.
we had Machine Gun Kelly. We,
They
we
did.
had Kane Brown,
Hmm.
Take That, which is like the British band.
Yeah.
So I mean, I kind of understand. I don't really
Not me.
understand. I don't really understand. Also, so many people have been saying, and I think it was such a good call. Where was Tate McRae? She would have been perfect. She has the song Sports Car
Yeah. Right.
out right now, which is like a lot of, car metaphors, whatnot. She's also kind of that perfect middle ground of like, she's famous and she has songs that
Yes.
people know, but she's not Taylor Swift or
Hmm.
she's not too big necessarily to do something like this.
Yeah.
And she's also, why wasn't there like, I mean, there was a female performer and we'll get to that, but there just needed to be a little bit more feminine energy, I
Yeah.
feel.
Well, and it's weird because so the way it came across to me is like Machine Gun Kelly was the Formula One like hire, like the introduction, like opening act hire. And then all of the other performers it seemed to me were part of like that team's launch plan.
Oh, I wasn't what Kane was Kane
Right before
Brown with
Haas, and then he did the Haas like whole
oh
intro
right.
video. So
Okay,
I
he
think
did.
because they're really seeming to lean into the fact that they're an American team, I think they were like really like running that point home. Because when Kane Brown came out, I was like, great, fine, but like seems really random, especially in a very heavy like UK audience, like UK European audience. I didn't really understand. And then when he was also the face of the Haas like intro video, I was like, oh, okay, Haas hired
But
like
like, okay, for that, Kelsey Ballerini.
well, yeah, sure. I mean, obviously, I think we can all decide, like, we can say that she is on tour right now. They
She
might have
is.
asked her and she might have been unavailable.
True.
Um, and I also think it's probably like, I feel like Kane's been at races before. Like, I feel like he's been around. And so maybe they have a relationship with them already. Yeah. I mean, I think we can all agree that, like, we could have had more gals there.
Well, it's not even just more gals. It was just I just felt it was sort of, um, it didn't feel like they were people of the moment, if that makes sense.
Yes.
That's kind of what I was
And
getting at more
and I
so.
think my overall, like, we can get into this more, but I think my overall, opinion or like the biggest piece of like constructive criticism, as if anyone cares what I have to say, but is that I wish, like, I understand why the teams had their like put together kind of their own production, but I sort of wish there was more continuity and it was like like an F1 program with interviews of the drivers and the launches of the like it just felt like it was so broken up that it didn't like have a good flow to it. It was kind of jarring. Like, we go from Machine Gun Kelly to Kane Brown, and you're like, what? What music festival am I at? But
Well, anyway,
they're all great. I liked.
that's what I
I'd
was
never
gonna
heard Machine Gun Kelly's stuff before, but it kind of vibes.
that's what I was gonna say, which is that so I didn't know this prior to the event happening, and I found out. I actually think I was Nate Saunders too, who I saw like a clip
Mm.
of him saying this that every team had 7 minutes to do whatever they wanted to
I was wondering what the
do.
time frame
And
was.
so, and that's why it made me felt because I also thought it was going to be kind of like an F1 sort of like cohesive planning. Like it was all going
Hmm.
to be very similar and kind of like flow together. And I think when we watched it, it was very clear that like every team had
Had
their
their
own,
own.
which I also like because
Yeah,
if you think of like a quote unquote normal livery launch, every team gets to
it's on their
decide what
own.
they
Yeah,
do. So like it is nice that they get to decide what they want to do with their time. But that's why, and we'll get into it, like that's why some teams had performances, other teams had a really long video. Like everyone got to choose what they did with their time. So that's why it kind of felt maybe to some people like it was not connected or whatever.
yeah, because it wasn't.
Yeah. Okay, should we just get into the teams?
Yes.
Okay, so they obviously went in constructors order, which, makes sense. And we
Yeah.
start with steak, the um drama. The just like starting
Drama.
out with the drama. It was like what's happening? And it was the first
Yeah.
one, so I just like
Yeah.
wasn't really sure. I was like, is this what we're doing for every single
Right.
team?
Yeah. And
It was
first of
just
all, I
wild.
just want to say I love a drum line.
I was
Love a
gonna,
drum line. And I love the glow in the dark drumsticks. But man, they really took advantage of the 7 minutes. That was why I was wondering what the timeline was.
I literally wrote my first note was the drumming exclamation point.
It was, and they were all very talented. This is where I get hard, like, because
Of
first of all, I
course.
also, as an event, like, I cannot even explain to you how grateful the production team is that this event is over, especially because you do have 10 teams who each have their own 7 minutes. Like, I cannot even imagine. But that is a very interesting use of 7 minutes.
Right. Because, yeah, and we'll get to it. Some teams chose to have a video or other
Hmm.
things. It was heavy on the drumming.
Yeah.
Um, uh, then if you get to the car itself, I think last year with their livery, it was like, oh my God,
Yeah.
because it was new.
Right.
This year, it's pretty much the same, give or take, but it
Yeah.
wasn't as shocking
Yeah.
as in past years. And also, I was like, oh yeah, Mattia.
Yes. I
I mean,
also had that, like, oh, right. He's back. I can't believe he's
he's
back.
I know he started working with them last year, and I also read that he has like taken over as team principal for the first couple of races before. I believe it's Jonathan Wheatley. Is that his name? The
I think
old
so.
Red Bull. He's going to come in as like, so he's sort of like
All right.
he's I think his actual role is like the technical
Chief Technology
officer.
Officer, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. But anyway, so but I just sort of I haven't seen him front and center like that in a few years. So
Yeah.
it was fun to see him again. And I mean it was fine. They bring out
Yeah.
the car, talk to the drivers a little bit, but it
Race it
was
up for a second.
nothing too crazy.
No.
Um okay, Williams.
Yes.
Would you like to start this one out with your
Well,
thoughts?
first of all, James Vowles is an icon and a legend and should be protected at all costs.
Strutting
I
on
love,
that
I
runway.
mean, he was a Victoria's Secret model. Like, sorry, love him. And I don't know if this was like a related clip, like if it was like pre-show interviews or whatever, but the fact that he watches Love Island, like, I love him. I
She
think
loves
we could be
F1
really good
or
friends.
she loves Vrooms. Sorry. Michaela posted a great reel about James just like
Yes.
being just like, yeah, hitting the runway, just owning that stage.
Yeah.
And he really was. Of all the principals, I think maybe there's something
No,
you could
you're right.
debate. I think he was the most in command, the most in charge. He
Yeah.
is jazzed. He is
Yeah.
so happy.
He's just so thrilled. And
He's
I
feeling
love that he
great.
went out there alone at first. I was like, are the drivers not coming?
I loved it. I
But
loved
yeah, he
it.
was just like, it's mine. It's my time.
Yep. You got the Duracell battery.
I did. I'm so grateful. Honestly, I was talking to my cousin about it. It's like whoever had that idea it's like it seems so simple, I'm sure, but like it's brilliant. And I think it's the most fantastic piece of advertising that is on any F1 car ever.
Ever. Wow.
Well, I
Big.
don't know. I don't have
Yeah.
that much history
Since
in
you
my
started watching
tenure.
it.
Hmm.
Yes, 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 yes. Obviously, I mean, I shouldn't say obviously, but the car itself, the suits, nothing too crazy, a pretty
No, I liked
classic
him.
Williams livery, but it was kind of that first time seeing Carlos come out
Yeah.
where I was really hit with the reality of, oh yeah, he's racing with Williams. I mean, I
Yeah.
knew it, but
Of
it made it
course.
feel very real
Yeah. It was like the
in
first
that
time we saw
moment.
Lewis in red.
Exactly. And we'll get
Yeah.
to Lewis,
Yes, of
obviously.
course.
There's also the guys in the helmets accompanying them. I don't know if you noticed that.
Obsessed with those helmets.
They're
I love the
walking out.
Gulf, everything Gulf. I just love those colors together. I think it's so fun.
It was fun. Okay. Next up, Visa Cash App Racing Bulls. Now, I did like how they did the little video, the play on no one knows what our name is,
Yeah.
and let's clarify. So they are Visa Cash App Racing Bulls. Now,
Yeah.
that's a long name. I
Yeah.
think for our benefit over the course of the season, I still like just saying RB
Sure.
because I don't, it's
I
too
think that's
much.
fine. I think that's fine.
Yeah, I don't
And
know
like
why they
during the broadcast, they might change to saying VCAR, but they're not going to say all of that during a broadcast, so it's fine.
right. I also don't know why they didn't just start out with their name as Visa Cash App Racing Bulls. why did they start out as Visa Cash App RB? And I don't understand that. But anyway, now they are Visa Cash App Racing Bulls.
Mhm.
Um, my favorite livery, I think.
I know,
And
I
I
really
know
liked it.
I think it's kind of controversial. I think some people love it, some people don't. But
Hmm.
I appreciate they took a risk. They took a risk.
Yeah.
They went all white, put it
Yeah,
out
I
there.
like I like the bowl on the back, and then I like the little like blue one. I don't know. I just think it looks cool.
I think it looks cool. And I don't know. I'm again not like a whole lot to say about it, but I appreciated the effort they put into it, and I
Yeah,
enjoyed it. Um,
agreed.
okay, Haas. So we had
Yes.
Kane, Brown, that whole performance to kind of touch that uh,
Hmm.
already. Again, not for me, not a whole lot to say other than it was sort of like, oh yeah, this is a brand new Haas era.
Yeah.
Esteban, Ollie, it's different.
Yeah, and I think that was maybe part of the goal too of like in like overemphasizing the fact that it's an American team because I like people say I remember when we were first starting out like oh are you guys like Haas because it's an American team and while that is like factually accurate they do not present as an American team to me. So I found it really interesting that especially they don't like since they don't have an American driver that they're really leaning into it even more. I also just had some nostalgia with the way the video was shot, just pulling out only the red in the colors because that was very I used to edit a lot of my photos that way, just using the blue because my eyes were blue. Shout out to Picnic. I don't know if anyone remembers, but anyway, it just felt very like they were paying an homage to the early aughts, and that felt fun.
Very fun.
The
Yeah, I
fisheye
mean,
lens, though, too, like that was an interesting choice with Kane. Like, I didn't know why we needed to do that. I thought he did a great job, though. And the hat was
yeah,
really cool at the end. Like, I liked the
yeah.
hat, but
Um,
I was just confused.
not a livery launch that I had a whole lot to say about. Just sort of like, okay, that's
There
the
it
car.
is.
There,
Hmm.
there it is. Nothing bad, nothing spectacular, but it was there.
Yes.
Um, okay, Alpine.
Yes.
Let's just jump to the livery because we had a lot of conversations prior about
Yes.
give us the pick. What did you think of the livery?
It was more pink than I expected, but I think we could have done more. And I'm not sure why we're not leading into it, but it's
I
not my call.
I liked it. I was happy with it. I was content.
Yes.
I wasn't overly, oh my gosh, this is so amazing, but I also wasn't disappointed. I like the
Yeah.
pink halo. I like that
Hmm.
from the front it looks pink and then the sides
Yeah.
are obviously blue. I like the mixture of pink and blue.
Hmm.
It looks good. The racing suits, I think isn't there pink on the front?
Yeah. I
I'm
think
pretty
so.
sure.
I
I
like
think
it's more
it's
like a
nice.
navy and pink on the I like it. I like the
I
suits.
think it looks good. Um but yeah, could have been more pink to my liking, but again, it's not everything is made for me. I'm
Totally.
I'm figuring out.
I
Um
think it's just hard. Like there's still some PTSD because they told us the car was going to be fully pink and then it just wasn't at all.
yeah,
And so I think we're all still just like yearning for that, but it's fine.
for the good old days.
Mhm.
Anything else about Alpine? Were they the ones with the DJ?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Also a unique choice. And I think what's hard too about this group, because one of the pieces that people were talking about is like this was supposed to be like a fan experience. I haven't heard feedback on like the ratio of like authentic fans
Mm,
compared to like who was invited by the teams and media and all that. So I don't know like what the split was. But I think any event like this is difficult because the DJ energy is gonna be really great for one group of people and like other people are gonna hate it. And I think when also like all the teams and personnel and stuff are so close to the front, the energy just like dissipates a little bit. And so I really do have a lot of like I'm very impressed by all the performers because for most of them, people probably weren't really like paying much attention, and that's got to be really hard. The DJ for me was not what I would have chosen for anything. I thought he did a nice job. He seemed really excited. I just thought it was an interesting, like again, it's kind of like I don't know this. I think it's hard because we only had 7 minutes. Like I don't know why he was chosen and like how it worked into the full Alpine story of their launch. Felt
right.
confusing.
Right. Yeah.
But we did get a lot of good like shots from the audience during. I
Yes.
think the guy with the red glasses who was like, "What's happening?" He came from that. So
I think there's going to be a lot of lessons learned, both
yeah,
positive and negative, and that's all that we can do is just learn and
100%.
Grow. Okay, let's get to the one that I really want to talk about, which is Aston Martin.
Okay.
Because I loved Aston Martin's
Yeah, I thought it was so
whole
fun.
thing. I mean, first of all, the Fernando and Lance coming in from the audience with the
Mm-hmm.
Bond song playing
Yes.
with the helmet,
Yeah.
like obsessed. I thought that was
Yeah.
so fun. I was wondering in my head, how is Lance feeling about all of this? You know,
Yeah.
Fernando, of course, is eating it up. He's made for the
Absolutely.
moment.
Yeah.
Um, I don't know that this is Lance's comfortable zone, but
Mm-hmm.
he was a trooper and he did what he had to do.
Agreed.
Then they
I
had
was nervous they were going to descend the stairs with the helmets on, and I knew they couldn't see anything. I was really nervous someone would take a tumble. We might have to go to, get surgery and rehab again. So,
I wish that they had almost zip lined or there was some sort of
yes,
zip
I thought
line.
they were going to be rappelling from the ceiling where that big box was on the stage. Like, I thought they were going to be coming like down as the box was going up.
I think that's maybe a little bit more Mission Impossible vibes.
That's why I knew that I was wrong.
But that would have been awesome. I
Yeah.
wish they could have leaned into the spy thing just a little bit more,
Just for a little bit longer.
just for a little bit longer. Then they had Thames play or
Hmm.
sing while they revealed the car, which I thought was the best use of like the performance
Yes.
mixed with the car. Like it's
Yes.
like building the tension and then here's the car as it's like
Yeah.
coming down the stage. It's like you're two birds, one stone stonesing it, you know?
Yeah,
It's
totally.
not wasting not that I don't want to say that Kane Brown was a waste.
No, I totally hear what you're saying. It's like that it takes a very long time for the, dolly to bring out the car. And then if they decide to raise it or whatever, like it takes some time. So you like having it happen while there's a performance, it felt like, to your point, like it was building anticipation and excitement.
Yeah, it was very nice. I liked it. The car itself, obviously, I mean, I love the Aston Martin green, so
Yeah,
I'm
me too.
always going to be positive on it because I just love the color. Is it anything different?
No.
No.
But I kind of
But
like that it's always like in its simplicity. It's got a couple hints of the like neon green and then the like mostly like white sponsor logos, and it's just classic.
yeah, so I thought that they just comprehensively used their time very well. We got our female performer, like the only one that we
Hmm.
had the
She was
whole
fantastic.
entire.
I'm not familiar with her work, but she's
She's
great.
great. Yeah. And I just thought they did a very good job. I would love to know the person that was in charge of producing
Yeah,
the Aston Martin because hats
10 out
off
of
to that
10.
person. You did
Hmm.
a great job and it was fun.
Yeah.
Um, all right, Mercedes. Would you like to kick this off?
Sure. I was pretty neutral on the Mercedes one. I will say George seemed, I don't know if he was just nervous. Like, I mean, that's a lot of, it's different when you're talking to a crowd of people when like the sun's out and, you're really talking to like Lawrence Barretto, but there's like, 400,000 people all around. It's different when the lights are on and there's 80,000 people staring at you. So he seemed a little like, at one point, he really was just kind of like deer in the headlights a little, like looked panicked. But, I'm excited for George. I'm excited that he's finally gets, to be the leader. I thought the car was fine. I do love that the one like red logo that they have for Niki Lauda, I thought was a nice touch. And I'm really excited for Kimmy.
You share a birthday with him. I didn't even know
I
that.
do?
Yes, it
How
was
did
his
I miss
birthday.
that? Oh
Yeah.
my gosh, HBT Nikki.
Yeah. So,
RIP.
yeah, you guys, what a bond you two
Wow.
share.
Niki
Yeah.
Lauda, George Washington, me, and Drew Barrymore. I don't know. That's quite the crew.
That is quite the crew.
So,
Yeah, I thought it was a good mixture of black, silver, teal.
it's a little
Wasn't
heavy
my
on the silver for me.
I know. Yeah. And then my other note was just I love Kimmy. I
I
love
know. He's
Kimmy.
so
He's
sweet.
so happy to be there and excited to
Yeah.
be there. And I mean, all the rookies, Isaac, Gabrielle Bortoletto, Ollie. I think that's the only ones we've like gotten
Hmm.
to thus far. Just they all just had this like almost they couldn't believe that they were there
Yeah.
energy to
And it's a
them.
hell of a way to start, like, because no one's ever done this before. So, like, for this to be their first
I
year is kind of
know.
like crazy.
I know. They all seemed so happy and excited and it made me it was nice to have that energy because I think there were obviously other drivers who were kind of maybe not as thrilled to be doing this
Hmm.
for different reasons and so having their excitement was fun. And
Yeah.
Toto was great, obviously.
Yeah, always.
Always lovely to see him.
Hmm.
Um, let's get to Red Bull.
Okay.
A lot of things to discuss.
Mm.
So the FIA was booed at varying points, which, you know what? Like, okay,
That's
valid.
fine.
Yeah. A lot of conversation because Christian Horner was booed
Hmm.
and Max was kind of booed. I've seen some videos from inside the arena that when Christian was talking or kind of announced, there were definitely boos. Max, it was a little bit more mixed. It wasn't quite as heavy on the boos, but listen, we're in London, right?
Uh-huh.
British bias.
Sure.
It's going to be there. And listen, a lot of people are still not over 2021 and they
Sure.
view Red Bull as the villain. They just do. I'm not saying it's right, but it's the narrative. I also saw, I keep bringing up Nate in this episode, but I also saw a clip
Well,
from
because
him.
he's got a lot of good work out there.
Yeah, I saw a clip, I think it was from their podcast, where he was
Mm.
talking about how Red Bull was reluctant to be a part of the F1 movie because they thought they were going to be painted out to be the villain.
Oh,
And so I think there's a feeling with them that they are, especially in London, and but that they've kind of been the villain of F1 for the last handful of seasons. And this was obviously like you're putting the team out in front of lots of people in
sure.
London, a lot of probably Lewis Hamilton, Lando Norris, George Russell fans. Um, so I I know you don't like booing at all. Like you're
Hmm.
anti-booing.
Yeah,
I am not like pro booing, but I understand booing when it comes to like a sporting event. Like you're at a
sure.
basketball game, you're at a football game, boo the team, whatever. Where I have problems with booing, like for example, at the Super Bowl, when everyone was booing Taylor Swift. I'm
Yeah,
like,
like get over
get away.
yourself.
Like
Yeah.
seriously, she's not playing on the field. Like she's a
And she didn't
person.
put herself on the camera. So,
Right.
yeah.
Right. Just I don't understand that. And I also
Yeah.
don't feel like when you're at an event like this, people should really be booing. I
I
don't know.
agree.
I mean, I think
No,
people have
that's how I
mixed
feel. Sorry, I
they'll
didn't mean to cut you off, but that's how I feel too. It's like stop. Like I don't. I find it annoying at sporting events, but like I understand at like when there's like a lot going on. Like I totally understand why that's happening. And I don't. I understand why there was booing for Christian, and I understand why there was booing for Max. But
well, I understand the booing for Christian a lot more than I understand the
well,
booing for Max.
100%. But I also like, and this is like, I have like a crippling amount of empathy for people. So for me too, it's also like I have a hard time just understanding it and also watching it. Like I have different feel like it's really painful to watch him just standing there, like uncomfortable as hell, like doesn't want to be like it's just we're all humans at the end of the day too. And like you don't have to like this person, but I also think that sometimes like the boo at the beginning when he first came out, fine. But like why are we still doing it? Like
Right.
I don't know.
It's tricky. It's
It
very
is
tricky
tricky. Yeah,
because my personal feelings about some of these situations, of course, like there's a part of me that's kind of like, yeah, this person deserves
obviously.
to be booed.
100%.
Um, but I understand it's kind of complicated. I also heard that Red Bull paid $800,000 for their 7 minutes, which is, I mean, I'm sure other teams it
All
was
the
roughly the
production
same
and
amount.
stuff. Yeah. Keep going. I just
But
have to plug the computer in, but to keep talking.
no, you're good. And then so they use a majority of their time with a video showing a video, which
Yeah.
I guess is fine. And then they had the car come out, Max and Liam waving to the crowd, and then a bunch of people like jumping up or jumping all around behind them. But
Yeah.
there was no interview.
Right.
There was no talking, which
I imagine
listen,
that's how they got Max there.
I understand that. I get it. And I've seen, I don't know, I'm pretty sure, I don't know if this is 100% if this was real or accurate, but there was some commentary about Max's dad coming out and basically saying that if this event is in London again, Max won't go or whatever, which because of the like animosity.
Okay.
Um, which we've said, did we say this on an episode that we thought this should be, if they do it again, they should move it around to different
Yeah.
uh, yeah, I think they definitely should do that. It shouldn't just be a London event. Put it in New York, have it in, I don't know, Milan, move it around.
Yeah, totally.
But I don't know. It was a little bit awkward. That the Red Bull part was just a little bit awkward for so many
Yeah.
different reasons. And I don't know. It was the one that felt the most kind of like, oh, yikes.
Kind of, yeah.
Um, so that was interesting. I mean, as we said before, like the livery, nothing
Yeah.
super special, but it's good.
Hmm.
Ferrari.
Yeah.
Lots of anticipation for this one, obviously. I have to say, I really do not like the white
I hate it.
strip. So HP is like a title sponsor. They're like
Right.
Scuderia, Ferrari, HP. Why did I say Scuderia? Whatever.
Fine. I just
They're a
work here.
title sponsor. They pay a lot of money to have their logo shown, but it looks terrible.
Yeah.
It looks terrible. And
Well, and you're defaming the red
I
Ferrari.
know. And it's like Enzo Ferrari is like, I
Howling.
mean, he's looking down saying, what the hell? I would
Mhm.
imagine. I mean, I can't speak for him, but I just didn't like it. I didn't like it.
I didn't either.
And I it makes me sad because I really want to like the car, but
I know.
I don't.
And I don't know how you manage the like HP. I mean, HP's colors are white and blue. Like, I don't know how you get away from
You can't.
that, but it's
Yeah.
also like I feel like I don't know. People are smart. We could have done something different.
And
I
I
don't know.
miss the
I just don't like
yellow.
it.
They
Well,
had
that's actually kind of what I was like wondering of like I almost feel like they could have figured out how to add in like made the HP part like yellow with the white HP logo. I don't know.
yeah,
I'm no designer.
I understand why they had to do it that way, but as a fan looking at the car, didn't particularly love it. I like
Hmm.
the red, obviously. It's icon that
Of course.
red is iconic, but the white part just wasn't great for me
Yeah.
personally. Though I do have to say, when it was, you know, Lewis and Charles Leclerc walking on stage with Fred, it's just like I just thought to
Wow.
myself, spoiled,
Yeah.
so freaking spoiled that it's these two together.
Yeah.
I
Did the race suits
iconic.
seem like a darker red to you?
Yeah, a little bit. I think the red
I
is a
like
little bit
them.
darker
Yeah, I
on the
like it.
car as well.
Hmm.
Um, Lewis obviously, you know, he's in his home country. He's
Yeah.
feeling the love, but he's
Hmm.
always great with the crowd.
Always.
Um, he always addresses them, you know,
Hmm.
really knows how to
That
do
is
that.
one thing I've noticed about him too. Like even at the end, like as he's walking off, like he's always, even if he's in a conversation, he's so intentional about looking out and waving and like not to his just like, not that it's a issue or anything, but Charles literally wasn't doing that at all.
Well, yeah, Charles Leclerc is sort of,
Which
you
is
know,
fine. I just think it's so like,
yeah.
sometimes when you see it like next to one
Lewis
another,
has the Taylor Swift thing. We said this
I know
before. Taylor Swift does such a good job of like making eye contact. Like she knows that when she makes eye contact with someone in the
it's
crowd,
changed their life.
forever, you know? And
Yeah.
so she knows that. And I feel like he just understands his
The
power and
power.
what he can do for someone.
Hmm. And he
Um,
uses his power for good. So I'm here for it.
exactly. But so yeah, wasn't super in love with the car, but loved seeing them. And again, to our point or my point earlier about seeing Carlos with the Williams, Lewis walking out, like not being with the Merc launch and coming out
Yeah.
with Ferrari, it was sort of a hit me. Oh wow, this
Yeah.
is real. Shit's
Crazy.
happening.
Yeah.
Last one, McLaren.
Yes.
How did you feel about it? Yeah.
Fun.
Yeah.
I
Fine.
liked that they had all the like old like the
Yes, that
older
was
cars
cool.
out. I
I
thought
did
that
like
was
that
really
too.
cool, like kind of showing the story of McLaren. Um, I always have a tough time with the McLaren livery,
Yeah,
and
it's fine.
it's
It's
fine.
fine. It's fine. It wasn't anything super special. It was
Yeah.
fine. Um, it was again kind of when they came out last, I was like, oh yeah,
Oh yeah, I know. I
McLaren.
was like, where are they? Like where? Because I've always because they always
Yeah,
do things in the order like this, and so I'm like, wait, why hasn't McLaren come out yet? I'm like, oh shit, they won.
yeah, they
It's gonna be
won.
so weird when they're at the front of the pit too.
I know. Yeah, we're not used to that. Yeah, it was. I mean, love seeing Oscar, love seeing
Yeah.
Lando. Obviously, you know, Zach Brown definitely has
Yeah.
brings some
Apparently
energy.
Lando's been Netflix and chilling a
I
lot.
know that was interesting.
Such an idiot.
But yeah, again, it was a fine reveal. It wasn't
Yeah.
didn't you know, to me my favorites were Aston Martin for their overall vibe, and then Visa Cash App Racing Bulls for their
Yeah.
actual livery.
Yeah. I would
Um,
agree with that.
those were my favorites. I also not to bring up those that we've lost, but this was also I feel like I've been handling the Daniel not in Formula One stuff very well.
You have.
Thank you. This was a tough one for me because
Yeah. He would have
I thought to my
loved this.
he would have loved it. And it was sort
Yeah.
of the realization of like he's not here anymore. Like he's no longer in like we're never gonna have him at these types of events. I mean, he could be
Yeah.
there as like a personality, but he would have loved it. And they
Yeah.
kind of needed someone that just was gonna love that vibe.
Yeah.
I don't know that anyone there was really
Well, it's weird not
obsessed.
seeing Will Buxton there too, because he would have eaten that shit up as well.
So
But
true. So true. But yeah, that was the first time where I just felt like, oh shit,
yeah,
that kind of sucked.
yeah.
Not having him
Stings.
around. It stings.
Yeah.
But we're just moving on.
That was so
We're
your mom when you just said it stings. Like you just look just like your mom.
great.
That's a good thing. It was just
Thank
funny.
you. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, anything else that we want to share from the launch? Anything we felt like they could have improved upon?
I think for me, what is hard is a couple things. One, when you leave it up to every team, you're gonna get such, and for good reason, you're gonna get such drastically different performances. I think when attention span, as we all know, is at an all-time low, when a lot of these were so video heavy, while I understand why they did that and a lot of the videos were really great, it's hard when you're watching videos consistently for 2 hours. Like it just felt like, so I think that would help if like, even if they still get to do whatever they want to do for 7 minutes, there's maybe a little bit more stipulation of like, you can't play a video for longer than 30 seconds to a minute or whatever. And that, because I also felt like we lost a lot of times with the drivers. I also, sometimes it was cool to like have the car come out all dramatically and like lift or whatever, but for time's sake, I think the car should just be there already or be part of the performance the way that Aston Martin did it. And again, I think like knowing how much went into this, like the production was incredible. It all went super smoothly. Like that there didn't, I mean, I watched it, I didn't watch it live, but it seemed like they were able to do like everything went off, at least from the viewer's perspective, without a hitch, which is pretty amazing considering it was the first time they've ever done this. So I think they like did an amazing job. I think just as a viewer, there's some elements of it that were kind of like, okay, this is really dragging on for a long time. Like, I don't know how I can still watch this.
Right. I appreciate that they did something that included that allowed fans to attend, because I do
Yeah.
think that these livery launches typically maybe they'll have some fans there, but it's very small. And so I
Yeah.
like that they had a thing that brought people in. I thought that was cool.
Mm-hmm.
I like the idea behind it. The
Yes.
performances, that it was all, I think, done with good intentions, and
Mm-hmm.
I think it was fun. But to your point, I do think there's some things they could work out. I wish there was, yeah, more time with the drivers, and also maybe more, making it more of a, not just a livery launch, but kind of
Mm-hmm.
more of an event. You have different drivers out on the stage. You have
Yeah.
the Lewis out on the stage with, I don't know, a different team. Like you have different
Sure.
teams out together. Maybe you have them do fun games, or you kind of make it a little bit more, yeah, not so video heavy and more stuff with the drivers out on the actual stage.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Maybe more of like a Q&A type of thing.
Yeah.
Not so much just like, okay, here, I'm going to talk to you. I'm going to
Like
ask you
how would you feel
two
about the livery? It's like,
questions.
well, what are they gonna say? That they hate it? Like,
Right, right. I don't know. Just there were ways, I think there are ways that they could make it a little bit more entertaining for fans, and also kind of like um I don't know, just make it a little bit more
yeah.
cohesive. But
Yeah.
I appreciated the effort. I
Mm-hmm.
don't know how often they're gonna. I don't
I
think they're
don't I
gonna.
don't think that I would doubt that they do it again. Because here's where I also thought about it too. If it worked well and everyone loved it and it went off without a hitch and the teams were excited about it, whatever, yeah, why not keep going and keep doing it? But my guess is that they'll, even if they had intentions of potentially doing this again, they could just say, oh, that was just for the 75-year anniversary.
Yeah,
Like we're not doing that again.
yeah. Maybe they do it once every 5 years, like every
Yeah.
5 year anniversary they do it or something. I don't know, but I think they'll probably go back to doing it just the individual teams next season. But to me,
Maybe
it
not.
was like decent. I
It was
didn't
fine. Yeah.
love it. I didn't hate it. I fell somewhere in the middle. I can understand the negative feedback. I can understand the positive. I feel very much kind of like
Neutral.
neutral. Like I see
Yeah.
all sides. I understand all perspectives. And it
Yeah, and
was
for
something
it being the
different.
first one, I think they did a really good job because no
Yeah.
one had ever done something like that before. So,
Yeah. Yeah. And as we know, we always we like content in all its forms. We appreciate content. And yeah, it was fun to see the drivers back together, back out there. It felt like a good kickoff to the start of the season.
Yeah,
And that's really all we can ask for. Um,
exactly.
Anything else we want to chat about before we part ways?
I don't believe so.
Okay. Well, it was lovely to see you.
Lovely to see you as well.
Next week, our episode with Emily Selleck is coming out. The motorsport journalist. We talk about the F1 2025 storylines that we're all looking forward to, excited about. So that was pre-taped because Hannah's going to be at a wedding. I'm actually also going to be out of town as well. So we have testing this week in Formula One, like in real time, but I actually might try to find someone. We can talk about this off mic. Might try to find someone to do a quick little testing recap that we can put out as like a bonus episode next week. But just in case people are like, why aren't you talking about testing on next week's episode? It's because we had to make some adjustments for our scheduling.
Yeah.
But I think that's it. I'll have you end the show because since we're on Zoom, it's going to sound all weird if we both say it. So since it's your birthday, you can end the show.
Enchante.